Good morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
19 senators voted to archive the impeachment case filed against Vice President Sara Duterte.
Several House lawmakers voiced strong reactions following the Senate's decision to archive Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment case.
Congresswoman Laila de Lima calls out what she describes as a distraction amid speculations on former Vice President Leni Robredo's ties with VP Sara.
In the third episode of his podcast, President Marcos insisted that he is not working for the numbers.
First in the news, with a supermajority vote of 19, the Senate decided to archive the impeachment case of Vice President Sara Duterte. Those who voted yes to archive the complaint were Senate President Cheese Escudero, Senate President Pro Tempore Jinggoy Estrada, and Majority Leader Joel Villanueva. Also voting in favor were Senators Pato de la Rosa, Amy Marcos, Rafi Tulfo, Pia Cayetano, Loren Legarda, Erwin Tulfo, Cynthia Villar, Grace Po, JB Ejercito, Sani Angara, Nancy Binay, Lito Lapid, Mark Villar, Alan Peter Cayetano, Bongo, and Rodante Marcoleta. Those who voted no were Senate Minority Leader Tito Soto and Senators Risa Ontiveros, Kiko Pangilinan, and Senator Bam Aquino. The lone senator who abstained from the vote was Senator Ping Laxon.
Now, the Senate has voted to archive the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. Here's the report.
Senate President Cheese Escudero made his stance crystal clear.
I vote yes to the motion, Mr. President. I vote yes to the rule of law, yes to the Constitution, yes to the supremacy of the Supreme Court in interpreting it.
What does that mean? There will be no impeachment trial, at least for now, against Vice President Sara Duterte, as the articles have been archived or set aside.
Fidelity to the Constitution, Mr. President, must prevail even when it is unpopular, inconvenient, or misunderstood. In fact, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it must prevail especially when it is unpopular, when it is inconvenient, and misunderstood.
Escudero also took a jab at critics, questioning the Supreme Court's decision or the so-called legal experts who act as if they're better than the High Court.
Are you truly for accountability or simply anti-Duterte? Do you truly respect and want to preserve the Constitution, or you simply hate the Vice President?
Escudero also had a reminder for the House of Representatives.
The Senate is not your playground to run after your political enemies. We are not an accomplice in any grand scheme. While others may be willing to play your game, I am not. I will never bow to a mob.
His position was echoed by Senate President Pro Tempore Jinggoy Estrada.
If we cannot obey the law, do we still deserve to be called lawmakers?
Sibling Senators Alan and Pia Cayetano also agreed to archive the articles.
Ayaw natin maging presidente si Vice President Sara, talunin nyo na lang sa 2028. Ngayon, kung talagang may ginawa siyang masama, edi impeach pero sa tamang paraan.
But not everyone agreed. Senators Risa Ontiveros, Kiko Pangilinan, and Tito Soto opposed the move. They argued that the Supreme Court's decision isn't final and that the Senate should have waited.
It is our institution which, in the words of colleagues, killed the articles of impeachment. People must have the power to make the highest rulers accountable.
Ang boto na no ay hindi nangangahulugan na hindi natin nirerespeto ang pasya o kapangyarihan ng Korte Suprema. Lalo-lalo na't hindi pa ito pinal.
The Supreme Court now has the chance to rectify these errors in its decision. So I was hoping to table the motion so that we can let us afford them this opportunity for the benefit of future impeachment processes. All we needed to do was wait a little.
Senator Ping Laxon abstained. Senator Erwin Tulfo, meanwhile, supported the archiving of the impeachment articles, but issued a challenge to VP Duterte.
Kung tunay po na walang kasalanan si VP Duterte, dapat siya mismo ang manguna sa pagbubukas ng lahat ng dokumento, paggamit ng budget at mga hakbangin niya bilang pangalawang Pangulo.
May correction lang ha, kasi nabanggit kanina si Cynthia Villar. We met Senator Camille Villar na nag-vote yes
Kasama
to
siya dun sa
archiving,
19 senators.
to archive the impeachment complaint.
Yes. So inabot nga ng 6 hours ito kahapon itong debate na ito, back and forth. But in the end, we all know naman na yung naging kinalabasan
Yeah,
nito
but what
yesterday.
initially was supposed to be a vote for archiving or not turned out to be a vote to table or to archive. And we all know yung the result of that, diba? Pero madaming tatanong, ano ba difference ng tabling from archiving? Ang archiving, as explained by the senators, means dead na ang impeachment complaint at pagbubuhayin in case na magkaroon ng reversal or motion for reconsideration is granted, bobotohan pa ng Senado ulit.
Based on the majority.
Based on the majority. Ngayon, kung tabling lang, the impeachment is still alive, pending the MR, and then pag nagkaroon ng reversal, automatic pwedeng pag-usapan na yung impeachment
yun naman
kaagad.
yung point
Yun ang
out
difference.
ni Minority Floor Leader Senator Tito Soto yesterday, saying na mag-antay muna tayo, antayin natin yung desisyon ng Supreme Court doon sa motion for reconsideration ng House of Representatives, then we get to vote. Diba? On what we're going
Yun
to
lang naman
do.
hinahabol nila. It's not merely go straight to the impeachment. Let's wait muna.
Pero ang pino-point out ng kabilang panig, sinabi na ng Supreme Court immediate and executory na yung kanilang desisyon. And naging punto din doon sa debate ni Senator Tito Soto versus Senator Marcoleta. Ang pino-point out ni Senator Tito Soto, there's a possibility, even if, diba, na majority yung vote or unanimous yung vote ng Supreme Court dito sa ruling na to, may posibilidad na ma-reverse yung ruling.
Because it has happened before en banc, as pointed out by Senator Risa
But
Ontiveros.
Senator Rodante Marcoleta said otherwise, diba? Sinasabi niya, siya kasi pinoint out niya yung experience niya in courtroom, diba? Trials, and saying na mostly talaga kapag daw unanimous ang decision ng mga justices, bihira na nagkakaroon ng reversal of ruling.
Pero may pinoint out nga si Senator Risa, as I said.
Sabi niya,
more than
may
once.
possibility.
More than once nangyari
Bihira
na.
pero may possibility.
Kasi nangyari na
Yes.
13-0 nga yung sinight ni Senator Risa na isa na na-reverse.
And then there's also good point din yung ni-raise din nila Senator Tito Soto regarding yung adjournment ng 19 Congress na nilagay din yun sa ruling ng Supreme Court, no. He differentiate yung meaning ng sine die versus the adjournment.
No, sine die adjournment versus a regular adjournment.
Regular adjournment.
A sine die adjournment means a termination of a Congress, like from 19th, you terminate the 19th Congress, you go to 20th Congress. So therefore, lahat ng mga pending na bills and ano yan? Archived already yan or terminated.
It will have to be refiled on the next Congress.
Pag simple adjournment daw, break lang.
Pero yun yung parang pinopoint out nila na during na naipasa yung complaint sa Senate, hindi pa sila talaga sine die adjournment. Kumbaga parang it was just a break for that day. Kasi the real adjournment was June instead of February.
Yes, and ang pinoint out ng Supreme Court in February 5, and they referred to it as yung final, parang sine die, hindi sine die yung February 5.
And other legal luminaries also pointed out yung pinagbasihan ng desisyon ng Korte Suprema, which is one of which is the report of ABS-CBN.
I was gonna say that. Senator Risa Ontiveros pointed this out, yung report ng ABS-CBN daw, na saying hindi daw dumaan sa plenary ang walang plenary vote. Parang immediate transmittal na to the Senate ang nangyari, which ABS-CBN has denied that they ever reported like that.
They issued a statement
They
yesterday,
did.
clearing na ito yung mga report namin saying na wala naman silang sinasabi na there was no plenary vote.
Wala.
That's why yung ibang mga nagpo-point out nga dito ng mga legal luminaries, it was best dapat daw talaga na nagkaroon ng oral arguments bago nagpasa ng
hindi na naka-comment yung mga prosecution team ng House or yung
Kasi
House.
mali pala yung pinagbasihan, if ever, ng Supreme Court.
At saka they didn't really read pala masyado daw yung explanation ng House. They didn't even ask a comment from the House. They just based it on media reports.
Which is, sabi nga nila, dapat talaga nagkaroon ng oral.
Kaya naging confident si Senator Tito Soto na if ever they really look into yung process nila, how they decided, baka ma-overturn because baka daw mali daw ang payo ng mga lawyers around the justices.
And he also pointed out na even in the past daw, when he was still in the majority, di ba,
Yes.
side, sabi niya, he has a voted minority issues pa rin kasi doon lang daw siya sa alam niyang nararapat.
And he's never been wrong daw. And
yun yung
God help us all. Ang sabi niya.
Pero ayun nga, yun yung nangyari yesterday, 19/5, no? Tapos one abstain.
19-4-1.
19/1. Kasi nag-abstain siya, Senator
19
Panfilo
yes,
Lacson.
4 no, 1 abstention
Right.
from Senator Panfilo Laxon. All right, the move to archive the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte has sparked strong reactions, not just from opposition senators but also from lawmakers in the upper chamber. Here is the report.
Several lawmakers voiced strong reactions following the Senate's decision to archive the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano described the complaint as dead. However, he clarified that the matter is not entirely closed, citing pending motions for consideration before the Supreme Court. If the court reverses its decision, Cayetano said the complaint could be revived.
Patay na pwedeng buhayin. So kung tinable, buhay yon na pwedeng patayin. Sinang tabi lang. Pagka in-archive mo na, patay na yon if the Supreme Court reverses itself.
Senate Minority Leader Tito Soto also believes that the impeachment complaint is now dead. He pointed out alleged factual errors in the Supreme Court's decision declaring the impeachment unconstitutional. Senator Joel Villanueva, meanwhile, explained that his vote to archive came without prejudice, noting that the Supreme Court's ruling is not yet final due to the pending motions.
Whether or not you will adhere to the decision of the Supreme Court. And the word for the day perhaps is honor. Diba? Honor the Supreme Court as the final interpreter of our laws, our Constitution. It is without prejudice to the Supreme Court reversing its decision. So hindi namin binabaliwala yung motion for reconsideration. At yung mga mahistrado ng Korte Suprema, mismong sila alam nila yon na may MR pa. But then again, they keep on pounding on the word immediately executory.
Over in the House of Representatives, lawmakers pushed back against the Senate's move. House Prosecutor Joel Chua said they remain committed to seeking justice and accountability and described the Senate's decision as a denial of due process to the public. Akbayan Party List Representative Percy Sendanya said the fight will continue, adding that the Vice President has yet to be held accountable for her alleged wrongdoings. Representative Chel Jokno added that the Senate action only deepened what he called a crisis of accountability. For now, the House's motion asking the Supreme Court to reconsider its ruling remains pending.
Right. Of course, we will see some negative reactions from the other side of the fence. And yesterday nga during the Senate's debate, di ba, yung nagbobotohan na sila, yung mga members of the Akbayan, it was showed in a report, nag-gesture sila ng thumbs down. Tapos eventually pinalabas sila ng Senado because they feel na baka nagugulo nga yung session nila.
Saka sabi ng ibang legal luminaries na parang medyong parang contradictory yung decision ng Supreme Court kasi yung basis ng justice system ng Philippines, justice delayed is justice denied. But the Supreme Court in essence was saying sa 2026 na lang kayo mag-file. So in essence, you're delaying justice not only for a guilty verdict, but justice also to clear VP Sara's name.
Well,
So you're delaying that justice or to hold accountable, whether a guilty or not, dinelay mo yun. So you're denying justice.
Well,
yun ang sabi ng ibang luminaries.
Pero yun nga yung pinapoint out din ni Senator Cayetano na they're not saying na walang ginawang masama si VP Sara, that she is not accountable to her actions, pero gawin daw ito sa nararapat na panahon.
Okay, so justice delayed is justice denied.
Pero ba pinapoint out nga natin dito yung base dun sa SC ruling. Di naman tayo nagmamagaling because we're not lawyers here. We're basing our, yung banters natin dito doon sa mga nangyari and of course sa facts that we have, no? Of course, sinasabi nga ng ibang mga justices na mga former justices na nagko-comment dito, yung naging SC ruling is somehow it was an judicial overreach, no? Because supposedly ang SC ang kanilang power is to interpret the law. 'di ba? Not to make the rules. This is otherwise done dito nga sa SC ruling.
Hindi naman tayo lawyers or justices or lawmakers. Pero parang ang sabi nga ng marami, ang mensahe na tinuturo nyo sa kabataan, if you're accountable for something, pwede mo isang tabihan kung hindi tamang panahon, which is wrong. Because dapat ang lesson is if you do something, anything you do, you have to be immediately accountable for it, whether positive or negative. Di ba parang itinuturo mo, accountable ka, wait lang ha, hindi tama, next year na tayo mag-accounting kung paano. Mali yun. Kasi yung pinaka-premise ng Constitution is, if you do something wrong, you're immediately accountable. Diba? I mean, putting legal interpretations aside, yun ang premise eh. It protects the politicians, it protects also the citizenry.
But looking back at the SC ruling, stating yung point nila doon na yun nga, yung pagdating sa pagiging opisyal na complaint ng isang impeachment ay of course binase nga daw ng House of Representatives doon sa rule that we are talking about, been talking about this yung 2003 Francisco versus House of Representatives na it will only be official impeachment complaint kapag ito ay naihain na or naipasa na sa Committee on Justice.
And then, magde-decide yung Committee on Justice sa sufficiency of form and substance, di ba? And then, if it's sufficient in form and substance, it will be voted to be transmitted sa plenary. Yun eh.
Kaso, parang naging, they can make rules pero hindi dapat retroactive, dapat prospective. Parang moving forward, eto na yung susundin ninyo ha. So, kaya ngayon, yung ibang mga tao nagtatanong, ibang mga legal luminaries, political analysts, of course, the journalists are also asking, so what happens now doon sa mga previous impeachment cases
na dumaan
sa Committee on Justice?
Null and void ba yan?
Oo. So, yun yung mga gusto natin din malaman.
Mahaba pa yan.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Senators are expected to expound on their vote whether to archive or not the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. For the latest, let's bring in our mobile journalist Marimon Reyes, who's in the House of Representatives. Tama ba? Senate, rather. Marimon, any statements from the senators?
Good morning, Angela and Angelo. So far, ngayon, tahimik. Actually, by 10 o'clock a.m., dapat meron tayong presser with Senator Amy Marcos. Pero since around 9 o'clock in the evening na kagabi natapos yung kanilang session, nausog to around 11 o'clock a.m. itong magiging presser natin. Pero last night, nung nakausap natin yung ilang mga senador, for example, for Senator Bato de la Rosa, nung tinanong natin, is it a win? Is it an accomplishment na nauwi sa archiving itong pinaka-call or yung boto ng mga senador? Nasabi niya, hindi raw masyado kasi ang gusto raw talaga nila ma-dismiss itong impeachment against VP Sara, pero okay naman na raw, pwede naman na raw ito. Yun nga lang, sa kabila naman ito naman si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, ipinaliwanag niya naman sa atin kagabi yung difference kapag nung motion ni Senator Marcoleta na inamend from dismissal to archiving. Kinumpare ito doon sa motion naman ni Senate Minority Leader Tito Soto na gusto niya namang i-table yung motion ni Senator Marcoleta. Etong to archive, ibig sabihin daw, patay ito sa ngayon, yung itong kaso, yung impeachment. Pero kung sakaling magkaroon ng reversal ang SC sa ruling nila, maaari naman daw magkaroon ng motion na ilabas sa archive. So, bubuhayin daw ulit. Pero kapag sinabi kung nauwi doon sa pagte-table nung motion, ibig sabihin, buhay yung impeachment at maaari na lang itong patayin kung sakaling magkaroon ng final ruling yung Supreme Court. Hindi natin nakapanayam sila Senadora Risa kasi hindi na natin sila nakasalubong kagabi. Pero yung ilan sa mga nakita natin is yung from Tindig Pilipinas, from Akbayan, mga nag-walk out sila during that time na nagkaroon na ng pagbobotohan doon na sa motion to archive itong ang impeachment. And actually kahapon nung tinrack natin yung from around 4 p.m. hanggang 9 p.m. na discussion nila, may lumabas kasi na 5 motions or mga suwestyon nitong mga senador. Una, from Senator Rodate Marcoleta, yung motion nga to dismiss yung impeachment. Tapos nagkaroon ng motion to table from Senator Tito Soto. And then nagkaroon ng intervention dito si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano at nasabi niya, hindi niya raw mahanap yung right words pero baka raw pwedeng magkaroon ng amendment dun sa motion ni Senator Marcoleta na ang lalabas is parang mag-a-adhere sa decision ng Supreme Court over dito nga sa matter na to. Pero ongoing yung nagiging interpellation ng mga senador, nagkaroon din ng motion to dissolve naman itong si Senator Raffy Tulfo dahil nga merong contending side sa dalawa pero may pending motion for reconsideration and appeal pa from the House. And lastly, nagkaroon na ng sinuggest na amendment doon sa motion ni Senator Marcoleta. Itong si Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva na imbes na maging motion to dismiss, maging motion to archive. At nung napag-usapan nga, ang lalabas dito is mag-adhere muna sila sa ruling ng Supreme Court and then kung sakaling magkaroon ng reversal, ilalabas na lang daw nila ito sa archives. Ito naman, ang nangyari is, ang boto was 19, 1, and 4. 19, umuo sila. May isang nag-abstain, Senator Panfilo Laxon. Ang pinaka-reasoning niya dito is dahil ayaw niya rin ma-preempt yung pinaka magiging decision or ruling pa dahil wala pa namang final ruling itong Supreme Court. Well, yung apat, Senadora Risa, Senator Bamakino, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, Senator Tito Soto, nanindigan sila na pag nangyari itong pag nangyari itong archiving, pinatay na raw. Pinatay na yung kaso, magkakaroon ngayon ng imbalance dun sa hustisya and yung pinakasinasabing constitutional duties nila bilang mga mambabatas. So far ngayon dito sa Senado, tahimik pa. Pero asahan natin na sa mga susunod na araw, kapag nakulit na natin itong mga senador, baka meron silang mas malalim na pagpapaliwanag. Pero ang common na sinabi nitong 19 na bumoto in favor for the motion to archive is final arbiter daw itong Supreme Court pagdating sa legal and constitutional matters or issues. So yung pagdating doon sa due process, yung interpretation of the law, eto na, naglabas ng ng kanilang ruling. So ang pinaka-duty nila ngayon ay sundin daw ito. Ang nasabi pa nga ng ibang mga senador, halimbawa sila Senadora Amy Marcos, Senator Bongo, mas maganda raw ngayon, tutukan na raw muna nila yung ibang mga bagay na kailangan bigyan ng atensyon at kasama na nga raw dito yung pagsasapasa ng mga batas. Balik sa inyo.
Yes, meron mo kasi isang kung saan agam-agam ni Senator Tito Soto with archiving was if ever, let's say daw hypothetically, nag-reverse ng Supreme Court at granted ang motion for reconsideration, dadaanin, pag-archive daw, dadaanin pa ulit sa boto. Problema, kung mag-reverse daw at yung vote ng majority is not to retrieve the impeachment, pwede daw patay na rin yun. With regards to archiving, yung word na without prejudice, kasi critical daw yun Tinuloy ba yun? Kasi alam ko, sinuggest ni Senator Villanueva yun yung archiving without prejudice.
Oo, tama yan, Angelo. So far kasi, ang nakikita din natin dito, base sa mga sinabi nila Senator Cayetano, since archive siya ngayon, pag nagkaroon nga ng ruling, ng reversal ng ruling ng Supreme Court, maaari lang magkaroon ng motion to bring out the impeachment again from the archive. So, ibig sabihin, may motion, so maaaring magkaroon ulit ng call for a nominal vote. So, while wala pa tayo ngayong kasiguraduhan talaga kung anong mangyayari if magkakaroon, kasi nga, hypothetical question daw ito, ang sabi ni Senator Rodate Marcoleta, historically speaking daw, yun nga, pagka unanimous ang decision ng Supreme Court, suntok sa buwan, kung magkakaroon ng reversal dito, si Senadora Risa from the minority, nagbigay na siya ng ilang halimbawa ng kaso na may en banc reversal ng decision ng Supreme Court, pero parang hindi pa dito satisfied si Senator Marcoleta kasi para sa kanya nakita niya, parang malabo na raw talagang magkaroon ng reversal. So, ang nangyari sa kanila to balance yung consensus nila and yung sinasabi nga nilang duties nila bilang mga mambabatas, napag-desisyon na nila ngayong to archive. Pero kung sakali man na sa mga susunod na linggo magkaroon ng reversal to the ruling, asahan natin na posibleng magkaroon talaga ng motion na ilabas sa archives. Yun nga lang, ang tanong talaga dito, kung magkakaroon ng nominal vote, ano ang magiging boto ng mga senador by that time?
Oo, then hypothetically speaking, kung matupad yung sinasabi ng reversal of ruling, will the Senate convene as an impeachment court before retrieving the archive document, or they will vote pa rin as a Senate in the plenary?
Yan din yung isang issue dito, Angela, kasi nga ang nagiging matter dito, ni-raise dito ni Senator Tito na nakapag-convene na ang Senate bilang impeachment court noong 19 Congress. Yan din ang sinasabi ni Senadora Risa, nag-convene na, technically ongoing na yung impeachment proceeding. So ano nang nangyayari ngayon? Ang nasabi naman dito ni SP Cheese, hindi naman ibig sabihin na i-archive o naglabas na ng ganitong ruling ang SC is tinatanggal na nila sa narrative na nag-convene daw talaga sila. Yun nga lang, parang to put it on record na nag-convene talaga sila pero hindi na sila pwede pang lumabag supposedly doon sa ruling ng SC, i-archive muna talaga siya. So meron ditong kailangan pang i-address itong mga mambabatas and hopefully magkaroon din tayo ng paglilinaw mula sa kanila kung paano nga ba nila ito tatahakin. Kasi ang sinabi rin dito, ang nasabi nila SP Chisal within the past few weeks, sinabi sa SC ruling, mula sa simula pa lang walang jurisdiction ang Senado over the impeachment. So, kaya ang nakita natin kahapon, hindi sila nag-convene, hindi sila nag-reconvene. Ang nangyari is nag-decide sila dito sa plenaryo bilang isang legislative body. So, we'll see kung sakaling magkaroon ng reversal sa ruling, kung magkakaroon pa ba ng reconvene ng Senado bilang impeachment court.
Alright, thank you for that and we'll get back to you. Maraming salamat, mobile journalist Mary Modreyes reporting live from the Senate.
And here to provide insights on yesterday's Senate debate and voting is Philippine constitutional framer attorney Christian Monsod. Attorney, thank you for joining us. Yes, attorney. Attorney, thank you for joining us.
Can you hear us po? Oo, we'll try to...
Yeah, we're getting the insights of course, one of the framers of the Philippine Constitution.
And I think it's also part of the civil society groups that are pushing for the status quo from the SC, anti-order, and of course, yung asking to intervene. Okay.
All right, Attorney Christian, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Ayun po.
Hello.
Yes, Attorney, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay po. All right, was wondering what is your reaction to the Senate's vote to archive the impeachment case of VP Sara?
Well, parang sinabi nila compromise yun with the proposal of Senator Soto to table it at saka yun naman kay Senator what's his name? Excuse me. Marcoleta. Na dismiss, no? Pero if you read the Supreme Court decision in the ruling of the Supreme Court to them, na if it is archived, it is dismissal.
Okay.
Yun ang Supreme Court decision. So it depends on how the Supreme Court will rule on the motions for reconsideration, including how do you interpret what the Senate did, no? Whether it can be reopened or there has been dismissal. That's up now to the Supreme Court. Because sabi naman ng Senate that they support, or whatever it is, what word they use, the Supreme Court decision.
So you think, Attorney, yung interpretation po ni Senator Soto that the more prudent approach was to table it, given that although immediately executory yung decision, it's not final yet?
Palagay ko tama yung move ni Senator Soto. Because then we have to grapple with the Supreme Court decision, which is different from the interpretation of the Senate that it can be revived. Supreme Court said it is a dismissal.
But one of the points po that was raised yesterday by Senator Tito Soto is yung plausibility na ma-reverse nga po yung ruling given na yung unang kanilang desisyon ay unanimous. Yan po ay of course dinebate ni Senator Marcoleta saying na kapag unanimous na yung decision, more or less usually hindi na po talaga yun na nare-reverse. Your thoughts on that?
Kanya-kanya opinion yun, right? I mean, there have been instances where the Supreme Court has reversed itself, and then maraming question was it a unanimous decision that Senator Marcoleta raised, no? So let's see what the Supreme Court does. The only thing we can do is now wait for the Supreme Court decision
Right.
on the motions for reconsideration.
That's right. Attorney, baka naman you could explain to us, no? Kasi minention din ni Senator Tito Soto about how the Supreme Court based its decision daw on the word adjournment and sine die adjournment. There's a world of difference daw between the two. And mukhang pinagbasihan daw ng Supreme Court sa February 5 case is adjournment. Kala nila sine die adjournment daw yun.
Well, yeah, he raised that question, and to me, issues like that, I prefer to wait for the Supreme Court
Right.
than speculate on what are the possibilities they can do. That's just debating the issue when actually it all depends on the Supreme Court. But my point about the Supreme Court decision is I think the Supreme Court overreached its powers, and because the Supreme Court, when we were writing the Constitution, there was a proposal na yung Supreme Court should be the judge, and that was voted down. Kasi sabi namin hindi pwede yun kasi yung the Supreme Court justices are also subject to impeachment. So how can they be expected to be fair or independent in that manner? But sabi more important, yung accountability article ng Constitution is to protect the people
Right.
from public officials who betray the public trust.
Yes.
Okay.
And therefore yung second mode na 33% vote of congressman is immediately it becomes the articles of impeachment. It was sent to the Senate. That is we were liberalizing the procedure because liberalizing it protects the people's rights. Ang gusto naming avoid din nga yung ginagawa ng Senado na postpone here, postpone there, and so on. Because you don't know if the charges are true, then harm is being done to the people when you keep on delaying.
Yes.
Right.
Di ba?
Opo. You have a point po there. And speaking of accountability, you and Justice Carpio have urged the Supreme Court to reverse or to reconsider its July 25 ruling. And if the decision is upheld, what do you see as the next credible legal or political pathway to ensure accountability?
Well, alam niyo, the people will always have the last word. Na sa akin, eventually, the people will win this. No? But, sabi ko nga, there is always, of course, the ombudsman. The people can go to the ombudsman and say, will you please investigate the both the Senate and the Supreme Court? Because the ombudsman can investigate even the president.
Right.
For anything that's illegal and unlawful, inefficient, lahat covered lahat yung mga actions of government officials. Kaya nga dapat ang sabi nga dapat ang ginawa ay sumbungan ng bayan.
Yes, that's
right.
Ombudsman.
That's why it's very
Yeah. That's why sa akin the sovereign people will always have solutions. Yung Senate, for example, or even the House, kung hindi tama yung kanilang ginagawa at parang tinatago nila o protektan nila yung mga respondents sa kaso, the people can get back to them when it's time to vote.
Yeah. Lastly, Attorney, you mentioned the Ombudsman. Can the House then file a case against VP Sara sa Ombudsman na lang? And ano po accountability pwedeng ipataw kay VP Sara galing sa Ombudsman?
But of course the Ombudsman cannot file the case. No?
Yeah.
But the Ombudsman can do the investigation.
Yes.
So on the basis of the results of the investigation of the Ombudsman, the people can file cases against those who have betrayed the public trust.
Right.
And there in here, we're not talking only about removal from office and the perpetual disqualification. We are talking here about criminal or civil case
That's
with
right. Yeah.
penalties. So it's a broader scale that the people have options. So let's not underestimate the 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 people.
The power of the people.
The people eventually will win this.
Right, right. Well, we will continue to get in touch with you regarding this issue. For the meantime, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insights. Philippine Constitution framer, Attorney Christian Monsod.
All right, and now let's check the situation over at the House of Representatives. We have mobile journalist Amy Atienza. Amy, ano ang reaksyon ng House sa impeachment in decision to archive?
Well, generally, no, Angelo, when we're talking about the reaction of the House patungkol nga dito sa impeachment ni Vice President Sara Duterte, makukuha pa natin yan later on today. Pero isang araw sa mga nakakuha ng pansin ng ilan sa mga miyembro dito ng Kamara ay yung statement nga din ni Senator Amy Marcos na dapat na daw palitan si House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Isa na nga sa nagbigay ng pahayag niya si Senior Deputy Speaker J.J. Suarez at sinabi niya dito na hindi daw dapat Senado ang nagdidikta kung sino nga daw ang magli-lead ng House of Representatives. Ganun din naman ang naging pahayag ni Deputy Speaker J. Conghun patungkol nga dito. Ang sabi niya, konting preno lang daw muna sa pagsasalita patungkol nga dito sa House of Representatives kasi layunin lang naman talaga nila ay maipakita ang accountability ng mga public officials. So patuloy pa rin naman daw ang kanilang paglaban dito. At kahapon nga sa naging press conference din kasama si impeachment spokesperson Attorney Odi Bukoy, nasabi niya na they will take it one step at a time at yun nga nakapagpasa naman na daw sila ng motion for reconsideration at aabangan nila kung magko-comply nga ba si Vice President Sara Duterte or yung Office of the Vice President dun nga sa magiging reaction dun sa motion for reconsideration ng House of Representatives. So patuloy pa lang din naman silang mag-aabang dito and later on, syempre, abangan din natin kung ano nga ba yung magiging general reaction ng House of Representatives sa pag-archive ng impeachment case ni Vice President Sara Duterte.
Dugtong ko lang, Amy, di ba, aside from yung statement ni Senator Amy na dapat palitan si Speaker, medyo maanghang din at medyo personal level ang attack niya. Meron na bang reaction si Speaker Romualdez dito? And also sa very tough words ni SP Cheese against the House of Representatives as well.
Well, wala pa so far, no, if we're talking about the reaction of House Speaker Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez. Pero yun nga, ilan sa mga miyembro dito kasi ng Kamara ang sinasabi sa kanila, they are literally just doing their job. Ginagawa nila kung ano nga ba yung tama para nga ma-uphold yung transparency and accountability ng mga public officials. So yun yung mga talagang naging focus nila. Hindi na naman siguro nila papansinin talaga kung ano yung naging atake sa mismong House of Representatives. Pero yun nga, tutuloy naman daw silang lalaban dito para nga maipagpatuloy ang impeachment case si Vice President Sara Duterte. At syempre, abangan din natin yung mga developments pa na mangyayari tungkol dito.
Well, the whole country was definitely watching yesterday doon sa nangyayari sa Senate. But are there other important matters to watch out for in the House today?
Well, ngayon, since it's a Thursday, no, walang plenary session, pero there are still members of the House na nagpa-file ng bill sila ngayong araw. Most likely, ano pa rin to, more on the issues of online gambling, pati na rin yung sa mga advocacies nila on agriculture and education, kasi yan ngayon mga nagiging usapin dito in the past few days sa House of Representatives. So yun ang aabangan din natin. And of course, kanina din nabigyan tayo ng advisory, Angela, na nagkaroon nga daw ng rally din in Quezon City sa Scout Circle na yun nga, pinangunahan ng Akbayan Party List. So, ipinakita nila doon, pinaglaban nila na yung pag-archive daw ng impeachment case ni Vice President Sara Duterte ay pagpatay na rin doon sa impeachment case niya. So, patuloy nila pinaglalaban yan, Angela.
Alright, thank you, mobile journalist Amy Atienza for that report.
Now, in other news, Congresswoman Laila de Lima has defended former Vice President Leni Robredo against allegations that she would have protected former President Duterte from the International Criminal Court. This comes after former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV claimed that Robredo would not have handed Duterte over to the ICC if she had won the presidency in 2022. He also alleged that Senator Bam Aquino sought a delay in the ICC's arrest warrant to protect the opposition's chances in the 2025 elections. The Lima called the claims difficult to believe, saying Robredo consistently stood for accountability and had opposed the drug war and the country's withdrawal from the ICC.
As a friend and ally, I can attest to VP Mayor Leny's unwavering commitment to justice and human rights. No one who stood with us during the darkest days of impunity and persecution can honestly accuse her of being soft on accountability, least of all on Duterte. We do not know what has prompted these claims, but we do know their effect: division, distraction, and disinformation.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
And for more insights into the Senate's decision to archive the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte, we have Prof Tamasi, Assistant Professor at UP College of Law, joining us today via Zoom. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Magandang umaga din po. Good morning, Angelo and Angela.
Opo, of course, we would want to know yung naging reaction po ninyo dito sa naging botohan ng Senado kahapon sa pag-archive ng impeachment case against VP Sara.
I suppose, and just to clarify, that the UP College of Law doesn't have an official position on this.
Yes,
but talking to colleagues in the college, I think you can describe it as not surprised, but still dismayed. We're not surprised because since February, you've seen so many new novel ways of trying to delay the trial of the vice president, and even, we haven't really even come close at all to the evidence against and for her. But at the same time, despite that lack of surprise, we are dismayed because I think it's a loss of an important accountability mechanism in the Constitution.
Well, a while ago, Prof, we were speaking to one of the framers of the Constitution, si Attorney Christian Monsod, and he says he really believes that there was an overreach by the Supreme Court over the function of the Senate and the House with regards to the sole power to try somebody and hold accountable. Now, do you think, if so, what happened sets a dangerous precedent moving forward and making the filing an impeachment case against an official more difficult?
I think it is dangerous precedent, with all due respect to the court, and fully aware that there's a motion for reconsideration still pending with them. I think if you look at impeachment, and one anecdotal thing I always say is that when the first impeachment I had was a 10-year-old watching the Estrada impeachment, and that was not difficult for me to understand at all at that age. It means that the process was designed to be extremely accessible to the public, including those who don't have a legal background. And so, more than the risk of making it more difficult to initiate impeachments, I think the legalization or over-judicialization of the process will tend to alienate people from what is an accessible way of finding out the truth about the moral fitness of a high public officer to serve in these very important positions.
Yes.
And I think that's the real loss here.
Well, on the July 25 SC ruling, naka-point out doon na naging parang proactive, or tama ba, not retroactive yung naging rules nila pagdating doon sa pag-identify ng official impeachment complaint. Now, a lot of people are asking right now, and we would want your opinion on this, what happens now doon sa mga previous impeachment cases?
Well, I think the general rule is any ruling of the Supreme Court, or especially a finding of nullity, retroacts. But if there is an inequity that will result, or if there is a reliance of parties on the rules that were laid out by the Supreme Court before, then the court prudently applies the ruling prospectively only for the future. You don't see that language in the decision now. And I think there are valid concerns raised about past impeachments that were already conducted.
Exactly.
There is a possibility that they will be reopened. But insofar as, the only two successful impeachments we've had President Estrada and Chief Justice Corona, President Estrada is no longer in office and his term would have been expired anyway. Chief Justice Corona is already deceased, and therefore at least the immediate effects of whether they will be back in office might not be there. But it is a concern, right? It rewrites the rules somehow on impeachment.
Right.
Yes, and sabi nga ni Attorney Monsod, when they wrote down the Constitution, they had the people in mind with the power to give us, hold people accountable. Now, sabi niya, even if this impeachment process was not successful, there is another recourse daw by going through the Ombudsman to file cases which can hold all the officials, even Senate, Supreme Court, and even the Vice President, accountable. And from there, it's not only the perpetual disqualification, but the criminal cases also. So do you think this is a possible route if after the MR is, if ever it is denied?
Because he upheld this ruling.
Right. So I think it's a possible route, but I have two important caveats briefly. The first is there is language in the opinion issued by the court, in the decision issued by the court, which suggests that high public officials are immune from suit before they are impeached. And I don't think the larger body of jurisprudence and Philippine law backs that up. So you do have that dangerous language in the decision, which I think my colleagues and I hope the court will correct. But the second goes back to the real reason why impeachment is, unique in our system. It's because of its accessibility.
Yes.
Now, once you have these cases with the ombudsman, these are closed proceedings. We have no idea how the decisions of the ombudsman will be done. We do not get to see how the case will be tried. And therefore, on the more important question of whether you can trust this person outside of the legal issue, but more of on the political side, whether voters can still trust this person, we don't get to see that. We don't get to see that dynamic. So impeachment is not substitutable by any of these, even though there are, and Commissioner Monsod is correct, multiple ways to hold people accountable.
I'd like to touch, Prof, you said that the language of an official being the president being immune from suit. Parang the explanation there was because if you put or subject the president to a suit or as a demanda, it takes away his time from functioning as a president. Pero there were also some luminaries saying that the vice president is a totally different position with no direct function except that to replace the president or if he's appointed to an office. So do you think even the vice president, given na wala naman direct function, is immune from an actual suit, a criminal suit?
Absolutely not. No, I don't think she is immune. We have a theoretical basis and a practical basis for immunity from suit. Angelo, you're right. You talked about the practical basis of the president being just bogged down by all of these cases. But in our constitutional system, we only have one person in the executive department, and that's the president.
Yes.
Everyone else just helps him out.
That's right.
But all of the other impeachable officials, other than the vice president, belong to collegial bodies, which means that the body will continue to exist. But the vice president constitutionally is a spare tire. So that immunity from suit doctrine also does not apply to, or the rationale behind it also doesn't apply to her, in my view.
Okay. All right. I want to go back to the word archive. Okay. Sa layman's term, alam naman natin when it's archive, pwede naman ma-retrieve. No? But of course, questions raised doon sa naging desisyon ng Senate yesterday on having the impeachment case being archived because yung kanilang condition doon ay kailangang pagbotohan pa kung gusto nilang i-retrieve yung archive nila. Is that, what do you make of that decision?
That's absolutely right. Archive from the matter of law, ibig sabihin nun, nandiyan pa rin siya, hindi siya patay, pwede siya buhayin, right? When the Supreme Court comes up with a decision. And so theoretically, the case is very much alive. It's asleep. Think of it in either deep freeze or deep sleep. But from a practical matter, we go back to the point I made earlier where you always find the Senate in the last 7 months looking for some excuse not to proceed to trial. And one of the key excuses that is now available to it, let's say in the hypothetical scenario where the Supreme Court reverses itself, is you now have the Senate with this question again. Are you going to revive the case from the archive? So boboto na naman yan. And you saw a 19-4-1 vote yesterday. That's not a very encouraging sign.
Right.
So that's why si Senator Soto thought more prudent daw ang tabling, no? Tabling means, Prof, you don't vote anymore. Basta MR granted, hypothetically, automatically, they'll take it up in plenary and have to convene as an impeachment court.
Yeah, that's the result. Tabling means that instead of the motion being voted upon, the motion will be essentially put on the table, left on the table
That's right.
only. So they're not going to act on it. But so I think that was really the more prudent, more constitutional way of going about this. But the Senate clearly had a different take on it.
But you said earlier that the archiving of impeachment, you were not surprised, but of course you were still dismayed. Pero doon sa pagboto ni Senator Laxon, were you also surprised that he abstained given na he was supposedly one of the supporters, of course, in the minority side?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm surprised. Senator Laxon, I think, did give an interview a few days ago, and I may be misrecalling it with that caveat na, where he basically said, respect the Supreme Court's decision. But I think one important point to highlight yesterday was the return of the institutionalists to the Senate.
That's right.
There are people who care about the Senate as an institution and its place in government, its high place in our systems of checks and balances.
Right.
You got to see that yesterday, right? You got to see 5 people argue it out, including Senator Laxon. So that's, if you're looking for silver linings in this whole thing, that's one of them. You have people who really care about the Senate as an institution, but you need more than 5 in order to make that, really work.
Unfortunately, in politics, majority rules. But thank you for your time, Prof. And we hope to have you again. Of course, may updates pa yan in a few days, and we hope to see and get your insights. But for now, thank you, Paolo Tamasi, Assistant Professor at UP College of Law.
Sir, thank you for having me.
Right, in other news, Consulta MD launched their HIV self-test kits, offering Filipinos a safe and judgment-free way to know their status. Mobile journalist Denise Valdez-Sancho has the report.
Inclusive at judgment-free healthcare. Yan ang goal ng Consulta MD sa paglunsad nila ng HIV self-test kits.
Consulta MD officially unveiled their FDA-approved HIV self-test kits in partnership with Fabrico Life Sciences and South Star Drug. This new offering provides Filipinos with a private, discreet, and judgment-free way to know their status. The self-test kits can be easily ordered through the Consulta MD application's pharmacy section, allowing users to test in a space where they feel most comfortable.
So dito, sa bahay nyo lang siya gagawin or anywhere na comfortable kayo, around 15 minutes, makakuha nyo na yung result ninyo. This is very confidential from the process of getting the Mylan test kit hanggang sa pagdating sa inyo.
This launch addresses a critical need, breaking the stigma and providing Filipinos with confidential tools for early detection and care.
We're seeing about 58 cases diagnosed per day, affecting primarily the youth, 15 to 24 years old. This prevalence of fear, of stigma. So that's what we want to address, because there might be some resistance that you feel if you have to personally acknowledge that you might be dealing with something. And then
beyond testing, Consulta MD offers users access to motivational counseling, HIV-trained doctors, and pre-exposure prophylaxis. To order, users can download and register on the Consulta MD app. Kits are delivered discreetly, empowering more Filipinos to take control of their health safely and privately. Mobile journalist Denise Valdez-Sancho. We are One News.
Wow. Another week, a Thursday na. Thank you for joining us. At before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone and all our politicians with a quote that would help them decide things better next time. The quote goes, "Failing to hold someone accountable is ultimately an act of selfishness." A quote from Patrick Lencioni. Selfishness. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angelo Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.